Formula 1 is all about the big teams, the teams that win races, get pole positions, and dominate championships. All of the teams strive for success in one way or another, whether it's the likes of Ferrari or Red Bull nowadays aiming for the title, or the likes of Williams and AlphaTauri who are just aiming to score points. In the first part of this investigation, I thought I'd develop the latter idea. Although AlphaTauri have gone through a downward slump recently in modern F1 and Williams haven't won a race in over 10 years, nor got a legitimate podium in over 5 years, there is no way they are the worst teams in the sport's history. With that, let's get into the video and discuss what actually constitutes a bad team. A bad Formula 1 team can be measured in many ways, so let's go through each way separately. The first and most simple way to say a team was the worst is by looking at how many races it entered. Simply put, a team that has competed in 20 races will be much less likely to be successful than one who has competed in 200 races. 18 teams have entered just one Formula 1 race, and 10 of those competed in the 1950s, when F1 was a much less organised sport in terms of who could turn up. This is why there were genuine works entries who raced under completely unknown names such as Cisitalia, Arzani Volpini or Eisenachar Motorenwerk. Amongst these complete nobodies, however, was a car brand that was both at the time and today synonymous with speed. Bugatti entered one race in 1956 in France with Maurice Trintignant, but the car was slow and didn't do any more races. The only other notable one-entry wonder was the most recent example. First Racing was a Formula 3000 team that tried to make the step up into Formula 1 in 1989. Their one chassis was underdeveloped, and although the team was on the entry list for the 1989 season, they didn't attempt to qualify for any races. Okay, let's move on from those who barely got off the ground. Maybe we should quantify a bad team not by how little they tried, but instead by how often they failed. Of the 12 teams in F1 history that entered at least one race but failed to start any, only 3 entered more than one event. Willie Kauhsen did 2 races in the 1979 season in Zolder and Jarama, but soon found out how expensive Formula 1 was and pulled out once he ran out of cash. He had planned to copy the Lotus 79 chassis which won the 1978 World Championship, but his designers, or photocopiers should I say, failed to account for the fluctuation in the ride height that the car would have experienced, thus completely negating the aerodynamic grip produced by ground effect. The designers rushed to fix this issue, but they cut corners as the team slowly ran out of money. In Spain, the chassis was 9 seconds off pole time and 5 seconds away from qualifying for the race. And it gets worse. In Zolder, the car was 13 seconds off pole and 9 seconds off the last car that qualified. Considering that this utterly hopeless car and team is the best of the 3 examples in this segment, the bar has been set so low that you could faceplant into concrete and it'd still look more graceful. Maki was a Japanese constructor who entered 8 races from 1974 to 1976. They actually weren't complete rubbish in the first 2 races they entered in 1974. At Brands Hatch, the single car driven by Howden Ganley failed to qualify in 32nd place but was only 1.3 seconds off the cut-off to qualify. In the next race at the Nürburgring Nordschleife, Ganley didn't set a time in qualifying. In 1975, the team entered but then withdrew from both the Belgian Grand Prix and Swedish Grand Prix, but then they finally managed to qualify in Zandvoort. Despite being 13 seconds off pole and 9 seconds behind the next car, they qualified in 25th place. However, a blown engine that they couldn't replace led to driver Hiroshi Fushida not starting the race. Fushida then tried again to qualify in Silverstone but was 7 seconds off pole and 4 away from the cut-off. Tony Trimmer then took over the driving duties for 3 of the final 4 races of the season and was the only driver not to qualify for the German race on the Nürburgring Nordschleife, 45 seconds off pole and 8 seconds behind Lella Lombardi in front of him. It was 10 seconds to pole in Austria and 2 seconds to the cut-off. Then in the team's last attempt to qualify in 1975, Trimmer was 7 seconds off pole and 2 away from the cut-off. They weren't always horrendously off the pace like Kauhsen were, but they weren't exactly legendary car designers. They only entered one race in 1976, the Japanese Grand Prix at Fuji, which makes sense considering they were a Japanese team. Maybe they could get some home luck. Nope. They were again the only car not to qualify, this time 18 seconds off the pace of pole sitter Mario Andretti and 13 seconds off of Masami Kuwashima in second to last. That was the Maki team's last race appearance, and although they started 1974 promisingly, it was downhill hard from there. Maki did 8 tries at qualifying before giving up, but one team beats that number. Life Racing Engines did 14 attempts to qualify. Life was the brainchild of Ernesto Vita, and the team came around because the owner knew a guy who wanted to promote a new engine configuration, a W12. Unable to pitch his idea to already established teams, Vita and the engine designer Franco Rocci created their own team called Life Racing Engines, with the idea of using the team as a platform to sell the engine idea to other teams. The engine concept was 20 years outdated, and when they bought the single chassis from the aforementioned First racing team, their chassis was going to be well off the pace. First had initially designed their single chassis well, but manufactured it with faults, and so they had to inject it with lots of material called Redus 410Na to strengthen it in order to pass crash tests. As such, the chassis was overweight, and Life's W12 engine was significantly down on power. They hired son of Jack Brabham and future paedophile Gary Brabham to drive the car. At the first Grand Prix of the season in Phoenix, Brabham had electrical issues after only 4 laps during pre-qualifying, and in the 4 laps he completed, he set a lap time 34 seconds off the time needed to get into qualifying for real. Brabham then broke a connecting rod in his outlapping pre-qualifying at the next race in Brazil, and frustrated with the lack of performance from the team, he left. After several drivers turned down contracts to drive for the team, Bruno Giacomelli joined Life until the end of the season. Giacomelli was a driver who had remotely successful F1 stint in the early 1980s, driving for the Alfa Romeo Works team. He took a pole position in the 1980 US Grand Prix at Watkins Glen, then took his only career podium at the Caesars Palace Grand Prix a year later in 1981. However, he retired from F1 in 1983, so when he came back for Life, he had a 6.5-year break from full-time Grand Prix competition. The 38-year-old's first attempt to qualify was in Imola, and after a drive belt failed on his outlap, the car was loaded onto a tow truck. Presumably, the tow truck did the rest of the lap around the perimeter of the circuit because as it came back into the pits, the transponder that logs the car's times clocked the Life and the tow truck's joint effort at a staggering 7 minutes 16.212 second lap time. 7 minutes. After that, it was Monaco, where Giacomelli was 13 seconds away from the cutoff, then in Canada that gap was 20 seconds. After the Mexican Grand Prix, where Giacomelli only put down a 4:07 time when the cutoff was 1:27, the team manager confirmed that they were trying to convert the chassis to run a more conventional Judd engine. The car didn't even leave the pits in the French pre-qualifying session, then in Silverstone it was 14 seconds to the cutoff. At Hockenheim this gap was 23 seconds, then in Hungary it was 18 seconds to the cutoff. Spa was 19 seconds off the pace, then Monza was the last race for the hopeless W12 engine, and Giacomelli was 27 seconds away from the pre-qualifying cutoff. The car failed to clock a time in anger in Estoril as the new Judd engine was ill-fitting to the engine cover and it flew off on the installation lap. In Jerez, the gap was 18 seconds to the cutoff, and the team subsequently pulled out of Formula 1, realising that their W12 engine wasn't the only problem with the car's performance. In fact, it was the whole car. Life had everything you could ask for in a bad team. Their engine was crap, their chassis was shocking, and would have struggled to be competitive even in Formula 3000. Their owner was delusional, and their engine designer was a nutter. One of their drivers turned out to be a nonce, and the other hadn't raced in F1 in over 6 seasons before taking the job. Life is definitely the worst of the F1 teams who entered, but failed to start an F1 race. While Willie, Kauhsen and Maki were uncompetitive and strapped for cash, both teams, Maki especially, could qualify in the ballpark of the rest of the grid, but Life couldn't. With that, I think that concludes part 1 of this series, where I'll look into some of the worst teams in F1 history. Next, I will look into teams who actually managed to qualify for races, unlike the likes of Life, but saw a lack of success in droves more than the terrible teams here could have ever imagined. I hope you all enjoyed looking at these teams that are a footnote in Formula 1 history. If you did enjoy it, please like the video, comment if you think Life was really that bad, and subscribe for future content. Also, share this video with your friends, or you could even show it to your work colleagues when you're on your break tomorrow. With that being said, I'm another shameless YouTuber who can't stop promoting himself because I want you to follow my Instagram account, which is Nedzo_F1. I will link it below, and I will put a QR code on the screen. My name is Nedzo. I'll see you all later. Have a fantastic day, and look out for next week's part 2 of the worst teams in F1 history. Bye!